blue chipper in Andre Rison.
And as a guy that I was told that was rated at least the equal of Michael Irvin, who was picked very high last year with the Dallas Cowboys, an equal of coming out of college, and we all agree that the Colts have one heck of a player, and it certainly fits their bill to a T. The next pick belongs to the Houston Oilers, and if there was one team that was decimated, and I mean decimated by the free agent draft, the non-compensation draft, it had to be the Houston Oilers. They lost 15 players. They worked so hard to draft number 1 and number 2 kids and get backup people at some skill positions, and now they've kind of been wiped out. So they could go a lot of directions. Pete Axthelm has a tie-in, even though he's in Lake Forest, Illinois. Axe has been talking, of course, to his good friend, Jerry Glanville, and some others down at Houston. And Axe, I wonder on your thoughts on where the Oilers might be going.
Well, it's interesting. We've been talking about glamour players, but really what the Oilers need is spear carriers. Talking to Jerry Glanville this week, he was saying, he said, did you ever go hunting? It happens I never have, but he said, if you ever you get a deer and you gut the deer, he said, that's what that judge in Minneapolis did to the Houston Oilers. They gutted us. We lost 1/4 of our chemistry on this team. We didn't lose stars, and you may remember from last year, they used those Army helmets, gave them out as trophies to guys who will hit the beach. Speaking of hitting the beach, I want to confirm that there's no truth to the rumor that Exxon supertanker Valdez that had the oil spill in Alaska was piloted by scouts from the New York Jets. Back to you, Chris.
Well, Axe at least has cleared up one big mystery today. You mentioned the free agents that the Oilers have lost. One of them, perhaps in my mind, the biggest one they lost, was their starting strong safety, Keith Bostic, to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, here is the Oilers were hurt most by losing 15 players. You see Atlanta and the Jets and the Rams and the Jets and Washington were close behind. But the Oilers really lost a lot of depth. But they lost their starting strong safety, Keith Bostic. And I don't know, I'm just an amateur mathematician, but if I subtract Bostic, maybe I add Louis Oliver. Isn't that kind of basic addition?
Well, we found a home for Andre Rison. I mean, you got to face it. We shopped long and hard. We finally found a home for Andre Rison. One I think that he'll be happy with, and one I think that his buyer will be happy with. Here's another case. I talked to Jerry Glanville earlier this week. When Axe mentioned that he was gutted like a deer, that's the term that Jerry mentioned to me. But the other thing is his football team lost Spencer Tillman, a special team player. Right now, he had a lot of guys stashed around that were going to help the Houston Oilers in the future. That's the way it is. He had players that were in a developmental situation. With the new rule that they passed, having only 80 players signed by June 1st, there are no such thing as developmental players anymore. I can see Louis Oliver going to that football team. I can see him contributing to the special teams and helping to rebuild the chemistry that has really come apart for the Houston Oilers. And it's going to take a good 2 years to get that tenacious, nasty, rotten, no good, downright scandal type attitude back.
You know, chemistry is something you talk about, and people think that it's just kind of a generic term, but you guys played and you know more than anyone else how much it means on a football team. For example, the Buffalo Bills, they're hoping they make our show today. I mean, because they don't have a pick until the end of the 3rd round. They were interested in moving up somewhere in the 1st round. But one of the big factors in why they haven't and why they decided not to, in talking with their people, Bill Polian, et cetera, is they didn't want to disrupt the chemistry on their ball club. That's a very fragile thing, isn't it, Tommy? And the Oilers really do have a lot of rebuilding to do.
Well, because of the people that they've lost, they certainly do have a lot of rebuilding to do. But this kid, Louis Oliver, and listening to him in that interview, I think it's just a shame if this kid does not get picked now, or maybe goes into that 2nd round, if those rumors that have been elicited to would be unfounded. I think it would just be a shame because this kid is a super athlete.
As we wait on Houston's pick, one little tidbit. Bill Hawkins is the 10th player in the 80s from the University of Miami to go in the 1st round. Jim Kelly, Eddie Brown, Michael Irvin, Benny Blades, Alonzo Highsmith, Lester Williams, Jerome Brown, Vinny Testaverde, and Bernie Kosar. Just thought you'd want to know. The Oilers are coming next with the 23rd pick in the overall in the draft. We'll be back to New York in a moment.
Bigger and bigger. How do you feel at this point?
Oh, man, if you get any bigger, you might have to move out into a bigger place to burst it. But, you know, it's, like I said, it's still scary.
You know, there are rumors have surfaced. Andrea spoke before with Louis Oliver, and that's something that frequently affects professional athletes. That's something that you're going to have to deal with. One of the things that's been a criticism of you is that you're from a small school. You haven't been exposed to a lot of this pressure. What do you think about this? You see something like this happens on a draft day. This isn't something that you've had to deal with before.
Based on the draft right now, I'm a little upset. I feel that the school that I came from has nothing to do with my playing ability. I showed the world, the country, so to say, that I can compete with the top picks in the country this year in the East-West Shrine game in the Senior Bowl.
Surprised that Andre Rison went so late. I know you told me earlier that you thought he was terrific.
Very surprised. In my opinion, you know, being that I didn't play against Harley Dykes, I felt Rison was the best available receiver in this year's draft.
Who have you talked to today? I know we've seen you run out of the room a couple of times and head to the phone, but who have you talked to?
I've heard from the Denver Broncos twice, and I also talked to the Phoenix Cardinals.
And the substance of those phone calls?
Basic information. Are you healthy? Would you like to play in those cities? So, you know, I responded, yeah, you know, most definitely.
All right, well, we'll keep abreast of things here. Chris Berman, now back to you in New York.
All right, James, thank you very much, and we will review the picks below me and to the side of me. You can check out what you may have missed as the Houston Oilers, the card is on its way up to the podium as we near the end of the first round here, the 1989 NFL Draft, live in New York and points beyond. The Oilers, the pick is coming up to the podium, and let's see what Houston, they can go a lot of directions, but we've tried to find a home for Louis Oliver. Maybe we did.
Well, also think trade, you know. That's the other thing they might consider, trying to deal that out.
Here's the commissioner.
The Houston Oilers take David Williams, tackle, Florida.
Well, like we said, Louis Oliver.
Next up is
David Williams, tackle from Florida. And before we talk on him, let me ask Tommy and Joe, you guys both sat a long time when waiting for your draft pick. You remember that day, Tom?
Well, they did not have the ESPN technology that they have now, but so I had to listen basically on the radio and try to figure out what was going on. But after the first round and a half, I thought I'd go in the first round or the upper echelon of that second round. When I did not, I left and went and played basketball. I just would not sit there and send myself through that torture that I know Louis Oliver is going through now.
Joe, you were in, what, the same round, the fourth?
The same round. I went the fourth. You know, they tried to humor me by saying it was actually the third pick by Miami, but it was in the fourth round. It didn't make me feel any better. I did the same thing Tommy did. I took off and went and played basketball. And, you know, we are a little bit at fault, and I say we in the media, and the teams call up, and like Oliver's gotten and Massey's gotten a few phone calls. They say, would you like to play here? Are you interested in our football team? We're interested in you. And it builds up the hopes of these kids. And they sort of say, oh, God, that's a place I'd like to go. Gee, that's a place I'd like to go. And then all of a sudden, their balloons just keep getting pins stuck in them. And it becomes a very tough thing emotionally for them. They'll get over it once they get into camp, once they get a chance to play a little bit. But right now, these kids are on emotional roller coasters. You know, the only thing that Tom and I could recommend to them is go find a basketball court, bang it around, put it out of your mind till it happens, really.
Or live in an area that doesn't get cable, so you don't have to put yourself through this. David Williams, a tackle from Florida, has gone to the Houston Oilers. And the Oilers, of course, have built such an outstanding offensive line. And, again, they go with some depth as they go with the big 6'4.5", 295-pounder from Florida, started in 45 straight games. Had some back surgery a little more than a year ago at this time, but guy bench presses over 435 pounds. He's a homegrown product from Lakeland, Florida. And so David Williams now goes to a deep, but maybe not quite as deep anymore, offensive line by the Houston Oilers. This is a team that wants to overpower you on offense and defense, and a team that can be going to the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers, by virtue of their Mike Merriweather deal, and the Vikings did sign him, now own 2 first-round selections. Their first pick was Tim Worley, running back from Georgia, back at number 7. Now this is Minnesota's original pick. The Steelers now own it. They are now the next one to make a selection. It didn't take them long.
Selection. Tom Ricketts, tackle, Pittsburgh.
Well, they didn't have to drive very far to test this kid, did they? They went from Three River Stadium over to the Pitt campus. Tom Ricketts, the big 300-pound offensive lineman, going to Pittsburgh. And here you see your run beginning with offensive linemen. It was going to happen at some point, and I think our run with offensive linemen is happening now. A 3-year starter at Pitt. Teammate Mark Stepnoski got a lot of the publicity, but Ricketts gets the higher draft pick. He's good speed for a guy 300 pounds. 5'2",